Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Professor Diehard, and I am here playing Greedfall. If you've ever been a part of the channel or seen any of my previous videos, you know that my history with this game has been very up and down. When it first came out, was very excited. Actually, before it came out, I was extremely excited. Really excited to see a new RPG opportunity, something that just kind of did something different, something that kind of gave you a whole new place to go, a new type of story, just something different than what we've been seeing for, I don't know, many years and for a while. So the last game I played that was original that I've seen, honestly, is Greedfall. And let me explain. Originality, in my best way I've come up with a definition, is something that is an idea or conglomeration of ideas that are based upon something of itself. It's something that is different from the rest. It's something that, when you play it, there's nothing really else like it out there. And that's what I really believe that the word original comes from. So why am I talking about this? Well, Ares and I, as well as Troglodyte Messiah, also PT Monster, have been discussing in the past just like, where the gaming industry has gotten. What has it done, where it is, like, and what's kind of led to where it is now. So let's talk about that. The gaming industry as of now is probably in the worst state it's probably ever been in. Meaning that when was the last time you either pre-ordered a game, and there's only one game I'm going to say this, other than like big AAA games like Elden Ring, for instance. Other than that, when was the last game that you were truly excited for? Something that really made you excited to try out and play that you could not wait for. I know the last one for me. It was Cyberpunk 2077. Cyberpunk has literally left its mark on history as probably one of the final straws of the consumer, of what unadulterated hype brings to a community and the detrimental effects it has on a community. Let's talk about Greedfall. Greedfall, in my opinion, had some of the similar issues where you thought the game was going to be one thing and then it turned out to be something else. But then, honestly, the argument's not the same. Because Greedfall is a AA studio. It came from a AA studio. It's a AA game, not AAA, meaning that what you're going to see in a AAA game is just not what you're going to see in a AA. Meaning, the length of a campaign, the in-depthness of its combat and its mechanics, just things along those lines. The last time I was excited for a game was Cyberpunk. And I feel like that what we have really lost as consumers and as people who enjoy playing video games recreationally is we have lost the wonder that comes with gaming itself. There are so many awesome videos. I can't think of off the top of my head, but if you just search on YouTube, where has gaming gone wrong? Or why are older games better than newer games? And a lot of the examples they use are like Star Wars Battlefront 2, KOTOR, Gears of War, some of the old PS1 games. I mean, there's just a plethora of different examples you can use. And to be quite honest, it's really sad. It's really sad. So why am I talking about all this? Because I feel like that as a consumer, I need to kind of sit down and just kind of like lay it all on the lines here of like just how gross the gaming community has become. I think what has happened is that developers have become creatively bankrupt. And It's almost to a certainty that they've become such morally bankrupt, not only morally bankrupt, but creatively bankrupt, because they focused on one thing now, and that's money. Obviously, money plays a very important part in game development, plays an important part on game sales. What you offer, is it going to be fun enough that's going to attract a lot of people to buy your game? There's a whole lot of things that go into it, of course. But what's really sad is that one side of this has become so much more important than the other that it's crushing gaming, and it's crushing people as we speak. For example, Cyberpunk, when it came out, before it came out, the hype was so ungodly real that people asked off from work. Many people asked off from work just so they can play the game. Then to come to find out the day it's supposed to be released, it gets pushed back, and then gets pushed back, and gets pushed back. Then when the game comes out, it's released in such a poor state, a piss poor state, that it's virtually unplayable. And that is kind of the place that gaming has gotten into now. It's a place of security that these developers have gotten, that, hey, let's release a game that's not complete, that doesn't have all of its shit together, that obviously needs more time to cook, and let's release it, take a little bit of the blows, don't take some licks from the gaming community, they're going to be mad at us, but we'll take some of those blows, and then after a certain amount of time, the game will be so changed in like the next few years that what you are left with is a product that's not even the same thing than when it first released. A really good example of this is Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Ghost Recon Breakpoint was honestly one of the biggest flops Ubisoft had. Wildlands was a better product. It wasn't perfect, it had its issues, but Breakpoint was sold on the idea it was kind of like a, loot and shoot 'em like RPG. Third person shooter RPG. And didn't work. It was so poorly received that the community died before it even set off. And but what ended up happening with it? Well, what ended up happening is the developers did not give up on it and made insane levels of change into the game, not only with its DLCs, but altering game mechanics. To where when it first released, after you paid all that money, oh, love that AI over there. Come over here. When it released, it was an RPG, and then by the last update they ever did, it was an incredible experience. Ghost Recon Breakpoint now is not only so much more fun, it plays better, has more classes to choose from, and you have the option of choosing how you want to play it, whether it be like a Division, like, loot 'em, shoot 'em RPG, or just a regular tactical shooter. You had that option now. But that was because they released a product that was honestly not great. And it was due to the fact that they released this product in such a bad state that the consumers got so frustrated and angry with Ubisoft that you either do one or two things. BioWare didn't learn from this. You either give up on a game, which BioWare did, Mass Effect Andromeda, or you keep pushing with it, and then you just completely change it to what the fans want. So let's talk a little bit about not only what makes a game original, but what makes game developers honest about what their product is. No one in their right mind could have predicted just how poor of a state Cyberpunk 2077 was. At this point in time, I think it came out, 2020, 2021, or 2019? I can't remember. Around that time frame, pandemic was in full force. People were kind of locked inside their doors, and there wasn't really a lot to play at the time. I mean, I was still going through Dragon Age Inquisition again, just because I needed like an RPG experience to play. And then Cyberpunk 2077 comes around. All the trailers that you saw, all of like the gameplay footage, came from an updated console that wasn't even officially, not really officially, but like it wasn't readily available for purchase for everybody else because you couldn't buy any of them. You had to either buy it from a scalper, or you had to wait an exorbitant long time just to be able to get a hold of an Xbox Series X or a PS5. If you're on a PC and you actually have already invested in shit and you already have all your specs, that's one thing. But you were kind of left out to dry. So when you found out that Cyberpunk 2077 came out and it was full on ready and available to pick up and play, when you got that PS4 edition, if anyone said in their heads that was a okay product, that it came out just the way it should have, there were zero issues with it, rose-colored glasses. That's what they were wearing. It was so poorly optimized, so broken, so many glitches that was going on constantly. And it wasn't even completely finished. In my opinion, Cyberpunk 2077 still to this day does not feel finished. It feels like a lot of the story is missing. It feels like a lot of the game mechanics that should be there aren't there. Some people still cry out saying it's one of the best games that have come out in a long time. But the sad truth is that they shit the bed. And that what we got to make a purchase for us as consumers to purchase this game was made on faith. It wasn't made on evidence. It was made on faith. It was faith in CD Projekt Red they would deliver a game that was original. A game that was well developed. A game that may have some bugs, of course, but a game that was ready. And then those same people that defend CD Projekt Red also say, well, Witcher 3 came out in a very poor state, which I don't even think that's true. I don't even remember. I remember playing Witcher 3 when it first released, and I did not have any of the issues a lot of people ever had that stemmed the level of Cyberpunk. Games now not only lack originality, they lack the foundation, they lack the development, they lack all of it that make games worth playing and becoming invested in now. I think Elden Ring is a really good example of a game that did come out, had very few bugs. They obviously, with a game like that, you have to edit some of the game mechanics, some of the weapons and armor, make them less OP, because I mean, once the player base sinks their teeth into it, things will change, obviously. But there wasn't any like insane bugs that actually disrupted gameplay. The only bug I came across was with our friends. We couldn't like join each other's servers as readily as we wanted to. It was really bad. We would have to find other areas for us to link up and join together. We had to do a lot of different things like that. It was a pain. That was the only downside, though, of Elden Ring. But everything else, when was the last time you played a game that truly felt original? That not only felt original, but you felt like that as a consumer, you had all the evidence you needed to make an informed purchase. This is where, you know, if anyone ever watches this video in the future, leave a comment. I'd be really excited to see what your answer is to that. Maybe it's Persona 5. Maybe it's, but again, AAA. These are all AAA games, by the way. Even still in AAA, when was the last time you felt like that a game really came out that was original? That its one motif wasn't just getting as much money out of you as possible? Let's have another example. Last of Us Remake, Part 1. The Last of Us came out on the PlayStation 3 and then was remastered for the PS4. And now has a completely new remaster / remake on the PS5. All versions costing full price. Yeah, it's it's probably one of the best stories ever told, some of the best characters ever made. But where is its originality stemming from? The originality happened in 2003. But all it did was resell the same game and port it over to the new consoles. Now, part 1 definitely has better graphics, has new outfits and weapon camos and whatnot and skins. But other than that, it just looks better. Nothing else was really added. It just looks better and plays better. But where is the originality of making an informed purchase on something new, something more profound? Some may say God of War. I think God of War is an excellent example of where it is a little bit original. I would give it that. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not really a big fan of that type of stuff. But some people may think that I would agree. That's a good example of originality. If you say a tactical shooter like Call of Duty, no. It's the same game that comes out every couple of years. Just the new skin. New paint job. What about Star Wars games? Well, Battlefront 2 tried to do some things differently, but it also came out in such a bad state and such a money long, like it was just so poorly, not only poorly optimized in certain regards, characters didn't make sense. Darth Maul couldn't even fucking block. And also there were so many microtransactions within Battlefront 2 that it wasn't worth it. There was barely any maps, barely any heroes. You had to literally pay to play as them or grind an exorbitant amount of time. That's what gaming has gotten us. And not only that, the ramifications of what gaming has done, current gaming, not the old days, not the good old days, but current gaming now, the ramifications of what it has done has caused even people, even gamers on the very base level, to not only hate each other, but fight with each other, which game is better, which one's this, which one's that. It has caused fans of the sports franchises to completely drop standards in what should be spent on money and what shouldn't be spent. Obviously, each person's money is their own prerogative. But in the grand scheme of it all, what do sports games really offer now that they didn't offer back then in the past? They offer less. That's the answer. They look better, okay. But that's it. And even then, that's kind of a stretch. What has happened is as consumers, we have become a little bit jaded in our ways of thinking about what a good game is. Is it about something different that comes out, or is it based on a developer that's releasing a game? What is it based on while we purchase something? I think it's one thing. I think it's because we get bored and we find something that could just a tiny, teeny little bit give us some sort of enjoyment. We will spend full money at full price to get it, even though when we buy that product, it's not really what it seems. And honestly, it's not worth the money that it's asking up front. So why am I talking about all this? As a person, as an individual, as a somewhat of a content creator on this platform, I just wanted to be known that what is the fix to all these issues that we have with gaming now? Like what can we do? Well, the biggest answer is we stop purchasing them. We literally stop giving money to these people. And when games get released in poor states, well, let's talk about that for a second. How do you know a game is going to be good or bad? How do you know? You don't know. It's either based on one or two things, evidence or faith. Sometimes it can be both. But most of the time, it's usually based upon faith. Like, hey, the new Mass Effect's coming out. And I'm talking about Mass Effect Andromeda. Well, the new Mass Effect Andromeda is coming out. Well, BioWare had like 3 excellent games of Mass Effect, and like they haven't really released too much trailers or anything about Andromeda, but I'm still going to pick it up. I literally bought Andromeda with 0 gameplay, video evidence, anything to support my claim that, hey, I should buy this game. And what happened? I played one of the most poorly optimized Mass Effects I've ever seen. The story was god awful. The facial animations were so poor that they literally had a character, an NPC in the game, make a comment saying that, sorry, my face is tired. Just so they can cover their tracks of like explaining why someone doesn't have any facial animations. But a lot of people bought the game. A lot of people did. And they got the money. So, back to my original point. What makes the game original? And why I'm playing Greedfall. So Greedfall released in a... not really in a bad state. I don't remember having like anything that was just completely wrong with Greedfall. I went through the whole game and I beat it. I think my biggest issue that I had with Greedfall was I felt a little bit misled with some of the trailers that came out. But then after I rewatched some of the trailers, I realized that what the plot of the story was meant to be was what you saw in the trailers was taking place after those trailers for the game. So I felt like that what we played and what we got was like more of an afterthought of more interesting things that happened rather than playing at the desired time where it should have happened. And not only that, I feel like Greedfall suffered from a lot of backtracking towards the end of the game, and it had a lot of repetitious enemies, all those things. But then again, I went into it with a AAA's mindset. But why did I buy it? I bought Greedfall because I truly believed that they not only did they show gameplay of it, to show the different types of classes and what you can do, can't do. They were honest about what the game was, but I still got subjected to the hype, which is also really dangerous. Now, coming back and playing Greedfall, it is honestly one of the most underrated RPGs that has come out in the last few years. And if you have an updated console, I highly recommend you pick up the Gold Edition of Greedfall. Most probably on sale, of course, but I also do recommend that, hey, show some love to Spiders. Because what Spiders did versus what other people didn't do is had the balls to actually tell a very interesting story in a time period that no one ever touches and create something original. Right now, I want you to tell me, other than Assassin's Creed 3, where it takes place in the Revolutionary War and you're kind of like in like the New World per se. Other than that, give me a game that has targeted the idea of colonialism. The only game I can think of is there was I think it was done by Amazon. I can't remember who did it, but it was it's an online MMO game that like actually flopped, sadly, because it actually looked really cool. I almost invested into a gaming PC based upon that game. But it flopped so hard that the player base has become basically nothing. And that stemmed from a colonialism type world, like a new world, 16th century, 16th century, warfare, all that stuff. But other than that, there really hasn't been another game that's come out that is done the whole. You are it's kind of like you're the Spanish conquistadors in a way, where you have all this plate mail going on. You have these big claymores, these muskets, magic. I mean, it's a big conglomeration of not only fantasy but historical fantasy, historical fiction, which I think works beautifully well. Now, is it the most? Is it like a AAA standard game where you're playing Dragon Age Inquisition? Hell no. One of the biggest memes in this game is, "Hello, my name is Desade of the Merchant Congregation." He says that a million times. Very annoying. But they had the balls to create something completely original. Originality is dying, and I think that's kind of like the place I want to like make this video kind of come full circle. Originality is dying, and there's not really much. I mean, what we see now is like a ton of Dark Souls clones that comes out like almost like probably once or twice a year now. Plenty of Dark Souls clones out there. Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Demon Souls, let me think. Yeah, Demon Souls, Sekiro, which is kind of like Dark Souls, but some other different deep mechanics with it, but still Dark Souls. There was the futuristic one. I cannot remember what it was called. I played both Surge 1 and 2, Dark Souls. There is the Steel Maiden, I think what it's called. That's basically Dark Souls. Bloodborne, which Bloodborne is probably one of the best Dark Souls-esque type games that have ever come out. But still, Dark Souls. Elden Ring, Dark Souls. Yeah. There's just so many games that just have like that Dark Souls vibe. That like, yeah, the worlds may be cool and interesting, I guess, but are they original? Are they so different from other games? Not just like on a gameplay and story level. I mean, just like in the world itself. Do they even look different? Do they even play different? And that's a question you have to ask yourself. There's a new game coming out called Gotham Knights. I've already pre-ordered it because I want to try it out when it comes out. Probably solo, just to give my own opinions on it. Some people don't think the game's going to look very good when it comes out. I think it's going to be another Ghost Recon Breakpoint where it's going to come out, people aren't going to be happy with what it is, and then they're going to change it to what people want. Then it's not going to be a problem anymore. But you know what those developers did, though? They have showed you what the game is. They haven't lied about it. They have shown you plenty of gameplay footage, cutscenes, like over like 30 minutes of like gameplay actually in the game of like all the different characters, like 30 minutes plus, like so much content, just so you can see what it is, what it's about, like what to expect. Because as a consumer, you deserve to understand what you're getting into. Is it going to be the most polished thing that's ever come out? I don't know. Probably. I'm expecting that game to be like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 to start off, and then when it's done up with all its updates and DLCs. I think it's going to be probably one of the best games. Not the best game, but like I think it could rise to about an 8 or a 9. But what I am very appreciative that we do not give credit to these developers is one thing. They were honest when other developers were not. They told the truth. They showed the game what it is right now. And maybe there'll be a lot of things that change when it releases, but they were honest about like what to expect. And there is honor in that. So much honor. So, just to kind of end this conversation here, this was originally going to be a couch conversation, but people couldn't show up, and that's totally fine. But as consumers, I encourage you to not only base upon your purchases, don't base your purchases just on faith. Base it upon evidence that it is what you want it to be, that you want to sink money in. But also question yourself and ask yourself one question. Is this original? Is this the best that developers can come up with? Like, is it? Is it the best? If you've ever seen Breaking Bad, there's a scene where Jesse is kind of like he's kind of like at a AA meeting. He's kind of talking about what he used to do when he was in the past. Like he was in high school and he was like in a basically a shop class. And he made this thing, and when he showed it to his teacher, he said, "Is that the best you can do?" And he thought about it, like, yeah, it was. Then he thought about it more, and he was like, you know what? No, it wasn't. So we started making more and more and more and more of these things. I think it was like a birdhouse. And by the time he was done, or this birdhouse, there was like this box, and it was just so well made that like he spent all that time creating something amazing, because he knew that his first iteration of a game, or his first iteration of whatever he created, wasn't his best. And that's, I think, a really great analogy of what gaming has become now. Is this the best you can do? And honestly, I think the answer is no. It's not. For most developers out there, AAA to even single A, it's not the best you can do. It's not. So, this is Professor Diehard, just kind of leaving you with this message of, when you are thinking about buying a game, is this the best they can do? It's kind of hard to gauge it sometimes. But the more you kind of separate yourself from gaming in a way, give it some time, like maybe it's time to like not purchase games anymore. Maybe it's time for you as a consumer to take a break from gaming and let some time pass, and maybe games will get better again or have better quality. But one person can't make a whole difference. It requires a village. So my inspiration is this: figure out what's original to you and what you are looking for, and don't make excuses on games that aren't up to your standards. If you temper your expectations, that's one thing. But if you lower your expectations across the board just because you're looking for something new to play, you're going to wind up being more and more unhappy. So, this is Professor Diehard, leaving you this kind of leaving you kind of with this. If you want to play something that's original, play something that's really different than what you played before. May not be the most in-depth in terms of game mechanics. May not be the most in-depth when it comes to a open world. It may not be the best game ever made. But if you're looking for something original, I highly recommend you try out Greedfall. And I feel like that Greedfall was like the last game in recent years that has truly has done something original. And I'd argue that Technomancer as well. If you ever played Technomancer, not many people play Technomancer. I actually beat the whole game. It was very rough game. Definitely like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's very average, above average type game. But they nailed a couple of things. Not only like the world that you're in, part of the story was actually really interesting. I got actually pretty invested. The combat was decent. It wasn't anything amazing, but I felt pretty badass with the whole knife and pistol build. This is my things I love. So I'm leaving you with this. This is it. Find the things that you find original. Hold on to it and stick to your guns and stick to your level of what you expect a game that should be. And really analyze yourself. Really ask yourself, is what I want now really up to par with what gaming has to offer now? And that's what I'm going to leave you with. This has been Professor Diehard. If you liked the video, it means a lot if you liked it. Leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts and what you have or haven't seen. Talk to me about what you thought about this whole conversation. I'd love to hear it. And definitely share it. I mean, it's definitely nothing incredibly interesting. It's just me playing Greedfall and character kind of sitting here and around a campfire with his homies. But just ask yourself, when was the last time you played something truly original? Truly original. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Deuces.